that was in the Writers Guild.
Oh, hell yeah. Dude, it's awesome, right?
Yeah,
MetaGame
yeah.
what?
I was saying I was trying.
The MetaGame what?
The metagame rap. Have you seen it yet, Pete?
Oh, the rap. Yeah.
I have
It's
not
awesome.
Rap, yeah.
Pete, you wanna break it down for us real quick? Hold on, you want me to beatbox for you?
Check out the Writers Guild mod. That's where it's at.
That's sick. Yeah, I'm just
Good.
reading it now.
It's fucking good. Yeah. All right, I'll shut up now. This isn't my rush week. Mine's at 5. Shenanigans. If anyone wants to come.
Yo, shout
plug.
out.
No, yeah, I guess all the Rush Week stuff's going on too. Our Rush Week event is in like an hour and a half, I think, over on Hive Discord.
So you're having the Rush Week after your cafe event?
Yeah, I think it's like overlapping by like half an hour actually. So I don't know. The next like 2.5 hours will be a lot of Discord social calls, but it's cool.
Yeah,
I loved our Rush Week. We almost like missed it this time because I had left the chat.
Yeah, I didn't attend any of the sessions, but yeah, I've generally not been around the computer this week. I'm starting to move today. I'm going to sleep in the other place for the first time for real. And yeah, let's kick this off, I guess. I mean, you've been here for 10 minutes and we were kind of late because we had the Gilder's Ring up there. So I don't know, you kicked it off already, Luke? Did you start with anything? Should we start giving the intro? What?
I didn't really start with too much. We kind of were just like hanging out and chatting, but we didn't start anything formal because I figured a bunch of people would be coming over and didn't want to like start too early.
Yeah, good. And it seems like there's a shit ton of people right now. So I'm going to dig this thing up. Or do you want to go first, or should I?
Yeah, go ahead and get it started.
Just give me a second. Come on. There we go. So this thing. People seeing this thing? Yes, it's live. It says it's live. All good?
Yep.
Yeah, I have to check every time because you never know. You just never know. Yeah, so you are all like used to the usual problem of this whole Ethereum space is that the new people have no idea what the projects are, like how to what part of the Ethereum they could get started in, like what project would welcome them, what kind of things they could do, and all of that, and don't even know like where to find the most basic information, how do they find the teammates for the projects, where do they get the funding and all of that. And yeah, just overall there's no onboarding system for the like Ethereum space as a whole. And yeah, we are losing a lot of great people that way. And this is kind of why we're building the MetaGame, which is a massive online coordination game, and it has like all the usual MMORPG elements, so like the players and guilds, the maps and guides, roles and skills, quests and challenges, titles and achievements, products and services. And yeah, I'm just gonna run through this. This presentation was made for the Bilderberg conference, and that I had a talk last for an hour and a half there. So I'm just going to blast through it here so that I can finish in 5 to 10 minutes tops. And yeah, you have these basic elements of gamification that basically explains why gamification works, why people play games. And so the first one is this epic meaning, which puts you on this hero's journey, and you're here to save the world. And you have these, you do this, like you have things to accomplish that gives you this sense of accomplishment. that you are empowered to move on because you get feedback, you build your character and all of that. And yeah, you yeah, I'm not going to explain all of them, but the point is that all good games have a combination of these, but there like no game has like actually all of them. And like even the best games, for example, they have this epic meaning and calling, but it's kind of bullshit because it's still just a game. There's no like, there's not really higher purpose in a game, even though it says there is. And so yeah, that's why we have metagame. And the point is that we're going to start breaking down the knowledge silos that should help people find a place. So, and yeah, build this resource hub and build a decentralized factory where people can just bring projects or just come without much knowledge and find all the resources that they need, projects that they could be working on, and yeah, just find their place and find their way other into other projects. And this is the basic challenges that one has. I'm sure. I mean, me and Luke talked about this the other day on the podcast. So these are all the well-known challenges of distributed things, of distributed collectives. And yeah, there's not much point to going through them in detail. The core infrastructure, which is pretty much the same as what you guys are using already in one Hive. You have GitHub, and the forums and Discord. You have SourceCred, and you have the Ethereum stuff and profiles based on Treebox as well. And then what the two main projects that we started with were the My Meta profiles. So similar to your profiles, and the point is that we created a members directory for MetaGame, but we want to make it so that other DAOs, and not necessarily DAOs, but other organizations can also use these profiles for their own members directory, and so that the people that are members of all these projects can be discoverable through different interfaces. And the Meta library is supposed to be this also a decentralized library with all the resources that people need when starting a project. So yeah, links to all the like building materials and all the like guides to like raising funds and finding teammates or whatever you need. So right now we just have the bare basics on the metagame wiki, which is at wiki.metagame.wtf. We started with the basic info about metagame, and right now we have like the House of Daos and the House of Ethereum, which gives like an overview of what those are, and the links to all the important stuff. Basic participants in the metagame are players, which are split into players and patrons. Players are the active players, like people who contribute to making metagame real, and the patrons are just the people who are like, yeah, metagame is awesome, but I'm working on many projects and I would rather just give you money. And so they buy seeds. And guilds are the second component, which are the groups of people, and which is why we invited the one Hive here, because we already invited you to be one of the first guilds in metagame, and so you are, and that is awesome. And the guilds are supposed to be creating projects, products inside this ecosystem, and offering services to other guilds and players. And the final one is the alliances, which are just groups of guilds, with the first one being the Meta Cartel, which has like 30 40 different guilds inside of it, and the Bloom Network, which is something like metagame but more focused on like solving actual real world problems right now. So like they're not fiddling with technology as much as we are, and instead they're already on the ground, like helping get people fed and things like that. I don't have to really talk about this because you already solved this in one Hive as well. Like you are running on pretty much the exact same system, except you do use voting to a higher degree because you have a conviction voting. And in metagame, we fully rely on just the source grid system and the informal decision making. And this is another one that I don't have to talk to you about because you are one Hive and you know all of this. You have a similar system and it works. It's awesome. what do you do with seeds? Yeah, I guess a lot of things, and not all of them are obviously possible now. But yeah, some of the things we split these use cases in like spending seeds, staking seeds, and planting seeds. And yeah, there will be a lot of way to spend seeds because yeah, we're building like a whole economy. So yeah, buying stuff, tipping people, and all of that, and then staking like. You want to onboard a guild, like we onboard in the one hive because like you guys are awesome and you have a lot of reputation in the ecosystem, so there's no worry that you're like a group of scammers. But if you want to onboard a guild that no members are known, then you have to stake because yeah, the guild might tarnish the reputation of metagame as a whole or scam people, and so they have to stake. And similarly,
Just a
yeah.
quick thing. We're at full capacity, so if you want more people to still come in, we should turn off our videos. Because when you have video on, then Discord's limited to 25.
Can we boost the server?
No, 25 is the max if you have video on, but if you turn video off, then you can have up to 100.
Oh damn. All right, I'm going to turn off my camera, but I'm going to keep streaming.
Yeah. More people should be able to come in now.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for saying this. And yeah, people will also need to for example, take quests because yeah, we don't want to create a system where people are like rated on a 1 to 5 star system because yeah, that's not the future that we want to live in. And so instead there's no like a rating system, and instead people are just going to be staking to take quests. So, like you want to take a quest, you stake some seeds, and you guarantee that that you will deliver what you promise. These are the designs for the My Meta profiles. This is also outdated by now because this presentation was made a month ago, and this was the current iteration at the time. We just added the NFT gallery. That was cool. Yeah, so other thing that you could be doing eventually with seeds is creating a personal token collateralized by seeds. And so this was the idea with this trust button. So instead of like having add as friend like the Web2 social media had, which like you just add 1,000 people but you're not really friends with them, in this case people would have like personal tokens. So you click trust someone, and that prompts you to actually exchange personal tokens with them, so that you're kind of staking on them. You're not just you don't just trust anyone, you trust people that you really do trust, and yeah, you create this web of trust. And then yeah, the guilds of metagame, I'm sure you recognize a lot of these guilds, but yeah, some are offering building services, some are offering consulting, some are offering design, funding, a lot of different things that yeah all fit together nicely. And yeah, we use this as inspiration. This donut economics graphic was made by this woman named Kate Raworth, which is a big critic of the current system of current economic systems. So she talks a lot about how we use completely wrong metrics for like guiding the world, like focus on GDP, which is just focused on like number go up, like extracting as many resources and creating like as much economic worth without actually worrying about solving the problems, and like on the way creating a lot of problems instead. And so you can see the things that we are doing too much of, and in in the middle, the things that we are doing too little of, and the green zone is where the optimal stage of development. And this is also our memes for this do not economics and donut economics. And I hope you can read this because I'm not going to do that for you. And this was also a bit outdated, but yeah, you can see how we use the donut economics to base our navigation board on. So the green line is the optimal stage of development, and yeah, the things move out from there. But that's also kind of beside the point. This is the wireframe, so I'm kind of ashamed to show it. I'll just scroll through it. but that's the that's the idea of the Meta OS. It's supposed to, yeah, this is supposed to be the dashboard, and yeah, just a rough overview. Like it's supposed to show you the XP that you are earning, the some stats like that, the token stats, the morale, which is determined by like when people log into the game asks them how are you doing today and things like that. And then the carbon footprint, and on the left side you get the journal, you get the goals. But yeah, that's just the things that I threw together here, and I passed it on to an actual designer a few days ago, so we should have something nice to look at soon. And we have this app drawer on top. And yeah, this I didn't add the actual context, and this app is supposed to be called the Meta OS. And so the idea is that it's like a for in the beginning at least, it's just a browser based like sort of an operating system for MetaGame. So you have these apps, the apps open inside the windows, you can pin the windows on the background, and you have, yeah, this whole dashboard that's supposed to be just as my meta, like super customizable. And you should be able to open all the things in windows and just pin them on here, and have like direct depth integrations and yeah, things like that. This is the same thing but on mobile. The timeline, yeah, this shows the age of this presentation. Launched today, that was a month ago. Yeah, all right, let's just ignore that. So yeah, we go back to the beginning. So the world as a whole, like the economic system is optimized for profit. So you either have to like, you kind of have to like maximize profit, or the competition will crush you, and you get this survival of the fittest, which is just the survival of the most savage. And yeah, you end up with the economies that are focused on maximum resource extraction. You have the world that's completely focused on wrong metrics, like is success more money? Not necessarily. GDP growth infinite? Yeah, not so good either. And yeah, you're familiar with the tragedy of the commons, and this whole thing seems like a downward spiral. So what do? Oh no, that's, skip the slide almost. In search of the commons scale. So eco villages, they seem to have people with a higher moral standard. They are more human focused, but they can never scale. So these kind of communities, like, they work better. They're like no dictators and things like that, but they can never scale above the numbers number. And if they do scale, like, they turn into something centralized. And the more centralized, the more it's focused on self-interest, and the more prone to corruption. There's less transparency, less fairness, and yeah, the more it gets focused on a numbers game. And yeah, the more things, the more the good things slip by. And so what the solution to that big like coordination problem? Is it a new socioeconomic operating system to warp the game theory incentives, to make it decentralized and transparent, to make a new culture and completely new measures of success? Oh, it's metagame again. Yeah, back to the beginning. A massive online coordination game to change the way people coordinate around solving problems and creating value. Phase one, which is what we were talking about all the way up until now, which is creating this decentralized factory that is just a hub for anyone who's interested in decentralized organization applications. So they can come in, find the guides to, yeah, everything that they need, work on projects without needing to like send in their CVs. But yeah, you have a system like that, and yeah, build this connective tissue for a decentralized world. Then we go on to the phase two, summon the great flood, which is the meme of metagame finally raising money to fund more and more awesome projects and awesome people to work on things, and start focusing on things that are outside of crypto, because that's, yeah, I personally see crypto just as the basic infrastructure. And so once we focus that, then the crypto can move into the background, and we can start solving more surface level problems. And yeah, still creating this system that anybody can just jump in, start solving problems, and make money. And then phase 3, which should be like 5 years away or something, which is about creating this network of thousands of people doing meaningful things and making a living. There's these co-working and co-living spaces, which is actually going to get mixed in a lot sooner, because for example, Drew, who's around here, is going to be the first one to start a metagame outpost, which is going to be a farm. I'm going to be starting the first co-working space, and the Bloom Network is one of the alliances in metagame, and they have a bunch of eco villages in their networks. So that's, I guess, a lot of this stuff will will be present in phase 1 as well. But yeah, phase 3 is when we will be more focused on really establishing this network and get even further away from crypto and deeply enmeshed into solving like actual problems, like not just first world problems. And taking more part in the ecological and philanthropic initiatives. So revolutionizing the world. Previously, revolutions are violent and bloody, and they create power vacuums. And now they're peaceful, and the new systems are already in place when the revolution happened, because the new system is what creates the revolution. Before and after is how it started. There is no plan. How it's going, there is a vague plan. So that's a step forward. And you have this quote that I like to live by, and that's it. I think that was fairly fast. And that's it from me. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask them. If not, then Luke can continue.
I have a bunch of questions, but I can run through a really quick intro on the One Hive side. I'm going to reuse the presentation we're going to use later for DAO Rush Week, but I'll go super, super fast. And then I thought it'd be cool if we could just brainstorm ways to collaborate, just generally. I think there's so much alignment between these communities. There'll be interesting stuff for us to discuss. So let me know if you can see this.
Yes, we can.
Cool. So One Hive is a DAO. We have a community currency called Honey. We really are just kind of experimenting. It's one big experiment. We've been dog fooding different processes, kind of learning as we go. But like above any of the technology, One Hive's primarily about community. This is something that like earlier last year when we had like a pretty big influx of community members after like a hackathon project that we were working on kind of turned into a much bigger project. This is like forking Uniswap to XDAI. We had thousands of people joining our Discord. We're a completely open community. We don't have like membership, so we had lots of new members joining. One of the things that we like kind of had to emphasize and had to struggle with was how to disseminate the culture that really makes One Hive a community, because it's not really about any specific technology for us. It's about creating a space where everybody can work together towards a kind of common goal. And kind of at the center of that experiment that like allows us to create a community boundary and create like a sustainable like economic engine is a Honey token, which we just issue into a common pool and distribute with conviction voting. And we use the conviction voting process to allow us to push all of the experiments that we're doing sort of to the edges. So we've experimented with source cred. We have a instance that we call Pollen. So if you participate in One Hive on Discord or Discourse or on GitHub, that goes into the Pollen system, you get rewarded with Honey. We also experimented with Bright ID, which is a social identity validation mechanism that's decentralized. Allows you to prove you're a unique human, and we distribute Honey via a faucet, so you can get Honey just for being a human. And we are continuing to experiment with new things. Like the working group that does marketing for us recently set up a bot in our Discord that allows people to vote on tweets to go from our main account. So we're constantly experimenting, but we use conviction voting to push those experiments to sort of the edges of the community. And when we do that, we can have lots of flexibility. So a lot of the work gets done in these working groups called swarms, and projects just sort of kind of spawn and spin up. So HoneySwap, which is where a lot of people that join the community know OneHive from, is a fork of Uniswap v2 on XDAI, because we moved our entire DAO from Ethereum to XDAI when the gas prices got really, really high, and it was really, really expensive to do anything. And now it's like even more expensive. But we decided that like we wanted to continue to experiment with governance, and governance is really like it's not like a financial transaction most of the time, and so it's really, really impractical to do on Ethereum mainnet right now. So we moved everything to XDAI, but then we realized all of the cool stuff on Ethereum that wasn't on XDAI was stuff that we needed. There's like this composability benefit. So we brought HoneySwap over, or Uniswap over, and called it HoneySwap, and we turned on the platform maintenance kind of fee, and that flows back into the common pool, sort of creating a circular economy. And now there's a working group that is formed to bring lending to and other DeFi primitives over to XDAI as well, that has sort of spawned out of the community. And we're very inclusive. Anyone can make a proposal and have the community vote on it. So like one of the things that's really missing in this presentation in general is a very clear like vision or roadmap or what we're building, because it's something that is very much an emergent phenomenon for us, and we're trying to like organize and balance the like chaos and provide information for people. But if you participate in OneHive, you get to make it what you want it to be. So very, very much like open to new ideas, new directions. And we kind of balance that chaos with conviction voting. If you go to onehive.org, this is the interface you see. And it allows you to basically allocate common pool resources via a process, like we call it voting, but it's not really like traditional voting, probably very different than any voting process you're familiar with. We don't look for majority like consensus. It's not that the majority wins. When you request funds from the common pool, there's a threshold that you have to reach. And that threshold is determined dynamically depending on how much you're asking and how much support other proposals have. So you can pass a proposal with the support of a very small minority of people in the community supporting the proposal. You don't need to reach complete consensus, and this allows people to explore things in different directions. It allows people to not necessarily fully agree on priorities, but still be represented. And we're really excited about it, and planning on making it so that other tokenized communities can use conviction voting as well from the interface. So that's one of the things that I think might be really exciting to collaborate on, because we want to extend this interface to allow lots of people to use it and have user profiles using 3box. And I think that's a good kind of tie-in to the My Meta profiles and MetaGame, sort of this Web3 social network. Kind of talked about source cred. If you get involved in OneHive, there's a similar process for remuneration. You can always make proposals in addition to that as well. Swarms, I kind of touched on this. So because we push all of the complexity to the edges, a lot of decision making happens in the context of small working groups that kind of have formed. Usually it's like small teams of people that are working on a specific project. They request funding in a proposal, and then they can allocate that funding kind of however they see fit. Some are using small like Aragon DAOs, multi-sigs. We're looking forward to Colony, which is coming to XDAI to use that. The Aave fork is going to have its own token and separate DAO that's going to be bridged via liquidity. So swarms are pretty like a general kind of term for working groups within the OneHive community. We have a wiki If you want to learn more about OneHive, this will kind of walk you through and help you navigate the quite chaotic kind of sprawl. We've done a good job organizing things, but it'll always be a work in progress. Celeste is our conflict resolution protocol that we're hoping to launch in the next month or so. And this will allow us to encode subjective constraints on proposals for conviction voting. So if we want to make sure that even though we don't have majority rule, we want to make sure that proposals follow the values and the norms of OneHive, and people aren't using proposals to fund things that we really don't want to be associated with. This allows us to provide a democratic conflict resolution process on chain. So we're excited about that, and I'll end there, and we can jump into sort of questions about anything that I rapid fire brought up, any topics that might be relevant to metagame.
Really, I just sent you the message about the typo. And
Oh yeah. Thank you.
The same thing we talk about in the Gilder's Ring. It would be cool if we were also able to use your conflict resolution system. For example, as I spoke in our presentation, we'll have people stake to take quests. So when they fail to take a quest, they can either just lose the stake, but if they don't want to lose the stake, then they would need to escalate that to some kind of a resolution conflict resolution system. And since you already have that in place, we could just be maybe doing it through that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. One of the things that we're going to work on is actually called quests for Celeste. I don't think Felix is here, but we wanted to sort of allow people to define ideas that people can kind of perform with a kind of mix between a bounty and something that could be repeated over time. And we wanted to ensure that the people that are creating these bounties also get paid. And we're planning to use sort of Celeste as sort of the mediator or escrow agent in the case that people say they've completed these quests, but there's a dispute over whether it was completed to the kind of specification required. So yeah, I think there's lots of opportunity there. It sounds like a similar need.
Right. Yeah, and the questing system itself, you also plan on integrating that into the website, right?
Yeah, it'll probably end up being a separate website because I think it'll be useful not just for us, but in general as sort of a way for people to do these types of bounties
Right.
or tasks. But we'll probably integrate so that when you're creating a proposal or vice versa, when you're creating a quest, you'll be able to do the funding aspect by making a proposal. So I think we can connect them, but keep them sort of separate so that I know Daos is on XDAI as well. And so this would be something they could use. Colony is coming as well. I think it becomes a general tool that doesn't necessarily need to be connected directly to conviction voting to still be useful.
Right. Yeah, because it sounds like that could be useful to us as well. We just started building the platform itself, so we're one of the next steps right after the dashboard. The next step will be to build the questing system. And yeah, if you're already using that, then maybe we won't have to.
Yeah, or maybe you could create a themed version of the portal, like a metagame quest board or something.
Right.
That'd be really, it would really fit the narrative, I think, of the game, right?
Right.
What is your timeline for having Celeste be able to be used by others?
Will just hopped on the call. He might be able to provide a bit more updated context, but we're trying to have a testnet kind of release the end of this month, and hopefully the main release shortly after that. But Will's the main developer and kind of leading that effort right now.
I would just reiterate what Luke said. Yeah, I think that's about right. Fingers crossed we have in 2 weeks we'll probably have a testnet, and then shortly after, maybe a few weeks after that, we'll be able to launch it. It's going well.
Yeah, we're excited because with that launch, we'll also be upgrading our like main DAO, so that like all of the proposals will be disputable, and it'll be like kind of hopefully the last like major update to the like Honey protocol itself. Like it's kind of the last puzzle piece for us. People will be able to stake Honey to participate, and because we've integrated Bright ID, it'll also help like the distribution of Honey over time to be like we're hoping to reduce the ginning coefficient of the Honey distribution as we've grown.
Awesome.
There's some questions in the chat as well.
Which chat? Town Hall Dump?
Yeah.
Yeah, Town Hall Dump. Eli asked, what is the underlying mission or self-organizing principle of One Hive? The first question. And then Gabby gave a good the community covenant link there. Covenant.
Yeah, that's definitely what I would point to. Like we tried to keep it as like open-ended as possible, because really we wanted to like be driven by a set of values, and not necessarily a set of like super concrete goals.
All right. And the next question from Arthur P1 in chat. The annoying question: why would somebody contribute to One Hive, and why would someone pick Metagame, or why help both? I guess that's kind of an ethereal question. It's we have a lot of crossover between One Hive and Metagame here of people that work on both projects, but I don't know if you have a thought on that.
I personally can share sort of like my vision for like Web3 and communities in general, and I think that sort of answers the question pretty well, at least from my perspective.
Yeah.
I like kind of imagine we've seen like a revolution with like Bitcoin and Ethereum in terms of creating these cryptocurrencies that create economies around them. And there is this sort of premise that there's like a winner take all like idea for currency. Like Bitcoin's going to be the the one currency to rule them all. It'll be the reserve currency for everything. And I think that's like totally not going to happen. I think what's going to happen is you're going to see all sorts of communities of varying different sizes have their own currencies. And because the cost and the friction to convert goes way down, like we've got DEXs and we've got scalability solutions on the horizon for blockchains, and you'll be able to hold your currency of your choosing, or a portfolio of them, and kind of convert on the fly depending on who you're interacting with or what you're interacting with. And so you'll see like a proliferation of community currencies, and people will hold and participate in the economies that they have the most affinity for. And just like you would kind of diversify your portfolio, you'll want to hold a bunch of different assets and different cryptocurrencies, and so there's like lots of room to kind of find positive sum relationships and work on common goods together. And I actually really like the idea of tokens or currencies like this creating bonds between each other using liquidity pools. So like if we took a bunch of honey and a bunch of seeds and we lock them in a liquidity pool, it makes it easier for people that are participating in both communities to kind of cross back and forth, reduce the friction, and also kind of create this incentive where if one community does well, the other kind of gets pulled along with it and vice versa.
I think also it just helps in general push the whole ecosystem forward, because we may be working on similar things, but we're coming at it from different ways. So when you collaborate and come together, you might see some of the different ideas that you weren't thinking about. So I know that's been my big reason for participating in more than one of these types of social economies.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes to this like nature of decentralization. Like, you get a lot of value from kind of the different perspectives and kind of collaboration and positive sum sort of elements that lift everything up and kind of buoy everything from going down. So yeah, very much agree with that.
Yeah, too bad we are still on mainnet. But yeah, looks like we are going to have to get over to XDAI sooner or later because this.
We're all excited because we're hopefully going to have the reverse Omni bridge and we'll be able to bring Honey over to mainnet as well.
That's awesome.
It's kind of like a big divide right now. I think like most of the activity will continue to happen on XDAI, but the fact that like the token's not available on Uniswap is definitely a challenge for people.
Right. So one of the main things we could be collaborating on is the one I mentioned previously are the skill trees. What do you think about that? Like, would that be useful inside one hive as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think though, like, I'm assuming the skill trees would be part of the profiles, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the profiles would have skills. That's for sure.
Yeah, they would be like linked to the skill trees, but I don't know if people here saw, but there was Michael Zargan posted like his like sort of spec for meta skills, which is like a bit different than skill trees, but also somewhat related. Where people, so for example, like he could have the CAD, he could be like the seed for like giving people like certification that they know CAD, and then he can sort of give that skill to other people, and then those people, once they have that skill of like level 2 or something, then they can like give other people the same skill or like the level below it or something, and use it as like sort of an organic way to like bootstrap a network of people and like verifiable like skills that they know how to do, to make the whole process of like finding who can work on what and who's like available like a lot easier. And you know, it would be based on like if you sort of like validate someone as having a skill that they really don't have, then that like hurts your reputation as that provider for that skill. And you know, maybe something like Celeste can come in for like dispute resolution there. But yeah, I just wanted to like throw that in as like another spec that's out there and that we definitely want to like work towards.
Yeah.
I like that approach a lot.
Yeah, when I say skill trees, I mean just like mapping knowledge. So like I see this like a sort of accreditation system, more like the second step, something we need to figure out. But yeah, I like the approach that Zargam has taken.
Does
But
this
yeah,
relate at all to the achievement tree stuff?
yeah, it ties back to that as well. But yeah, to begin with, I think it would be good just to have knowledge like mapped out, just so that people can be able to see which direction they could be learning in. So not the accreditations come later. But yeah, we're going to separate set up a dedicated meetup for this, for the skill trees, like knowledge management system in general, the achievement NFTs and all of that. Like I think that can all be grouped basically under this same system as you mentioned. And yeah, so far we are interested in that. You seem to be interested. Raid Guild also always wanted to build something like that. Deep Work is building it. Lex DAO is building it. So that's just the people from our close ecosystem, and there's probably a bunch more organizations in the wider Ethereum ecosystem that also want some kind of a skill tree system to add more visibility to the paths of development. And so yeah, I will set up a meeting probably either for the final week of January or the first week of February. It's going to be posted in the newsletter and yeah, in your Discord as well. You said you had some question previously when I just finished my presentation.
Oh yeah.
If you remember those.
I was thinking about the like OS drawer thing, and I was just wondering like what that what that looks like in terms of like adding applications to the drawer. Oh my god, that
Yeah, there needs to be a separate section called bloatware for the like user installed apps. Where people should be able to add their own shortcuts that should be like just for their own version, because yeah, everyone should be able to customize their own Meta OS. But there should be a way for to suggest like apps to install. So like just to add shortcuts there. And the idea for that was that like you would click this like install app button, and then it would ask you like, do you want to install this like because you work for that project, or because you think this is useful for metagame, or uh, just trying to gauge the reason why would somebody want to add it, which would then get reviewed by a team that's set up a role for that. And then it will be decided like, does the user need to stake some seeds, do they have to pay something, or whatever needs to happen for them to like quote unquote install an app inside the app drawer, if they're installing an app for everybody, not just like for themselves.
Like a meta app standard.
Yeah.
is there like something specific that like the apps would need to like conform to for an interface, or is this more like an iframe that just gets passed through?
So
Yeah, right now it's just iframes.
Yeah, right now it's just iframes, but like we're thinking like it's always a trade-off of like having something more standardized, but not too like prescriptive, because like it's harder to get people to adopt it versus just standard iframes. But like we've thrown this idea around too, where like these apps can be like NFTs, and if you like have an NFT, that means like you basically have a license to use this app or like add it to your profile. And it could be a cool way to like fund the development of these like mini apps that do different things or like integrate with various like dApps, because like the authors of these could like sell them as NFTs, and people can like use it and then like pass it on, and you get kind of like a cool supply demand of like people who want to use this app. Like I think like we're gonna start with iframes and then see like what use cases come up, and then like if there's places where we can like have something more structured. There is some like kind of new stuff in the Web 2 space around like micro front ends. Like if you kind of think about like microservices or like these sort of things that's happening in the back end, but that same sort of ideology applied in the front end, where we don't actually have to load the entire like website behind an iframe. We just load like the specific resources that are required by that thing. So for example, if it's a React app, like because the containing app has React, it wouldn't load React again in the iframe. It would just load like whatever new stuff is there. So yeah, there's some stuff like that we're sort of researching and exploring to see if we can make it easier to like have something that feels a bit more integrated without losing the ability to like self-publish apps on different domains and stuff.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. Complicated, but interesting.
Yeah.
The other kind of question I had was around, I think someone had mentioned, maybe this was in the prior call as well, the idea of kind of aggregating source cred amongst all of these communities using source cred, and like the connections there. And one of the things that we were talking about in our Discord just the other day was this concept of doing under collateralized loans that are backed by like claims on source cred payouts. Because with SourceGrid, you build up this like recurring reputation, and a lot of the payouts are recurring. So you've got this like future income stream that you could potentially use as collateral for like a immediate loan, using like Aave's like delegated credit feature.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Like we've been talking about a lot of this stuff at SourceCred, specifically about these loans because there's always this like barrier to entry for new contributors coming into SourceCred, which is like the uncertainty of like what they'll get paid in the future. So oftentimes it's like, with SourceCred has this program where like they can sort of front you like a certain amount of grain as like a guaranteed amount, and then like as you sort of earn and sort of make up to that point, then it kind of like cancels that out, just to give people that like upfront certainty so they can like make that jump to, so they know that they'll be able to pay next month's rent and, these sort of things. So yeah, I think like having it more connected to the DeFi like space will definitely be worthwhile. And as for like connecting these different like communities and SourceGrid instances together, the sort of evolution we see happening is that we separate out like the data store of what happened from like each SourceGrid instance like assigning value to those events, because like things that happen aren't really siloed across in like a certain community. We should be able to like MetaGame should be able to like give cred to things that happen in one hive, and one hive should be able to give cred to things that happen in SourceCred and that sort of thing. So the idea is we would have like a common decentralized like data store that could be based on IPFS or Arweave or whatever sort of tech there is in that space. Hopefully ceramic, because we can actually have those documents be like verifiable and signed and versioned and stuff, and then basically anyone can like publish to this activity feed of things that happened, and it would be permissionless, but nothing in that activity feed gets any XP or cred unless a community like recognizes that contribution. So any of these like activities or like sort of records in this like ledger of record could be recognized by one or many communities, and then they all distribute cred accordingly, and then the members would then get cred and tokens from like all these different communities that they're a part of or were somewhat related to. That's how we kind of envision like that working out in like a broader scale. In terms of like direct community to community cred flows, we want to like sort of promote this culture of paying your dependencies. So right now MetaGame and OneHive both pay SourceCred like a certain portion of the tokens that we distribute through SourceCred for SourceCred's like services, or like to fund SourceCred essentially. But we want to create an easier way for communities to do that, not just to SourceCred, but like back from SourceCred to the communities, and like from communities like to each other. So like if anyone who's using Celeste in all these communities, should be flowing cred to the Celeste team, for example. And then that's an incentive for the Celeste team to like make sure that as many other communities can use it as well. So this will come with like the creditor, and hopefully like figure out a nice way to map these out. And
Does MetaGame make distinctions in the like SourceGrid instance between different teams, like the team working on My Meta versus the team working on the Meta OS or like other things, or like Meta Radio? Or is it all like we do it all as one big thing?
Yeah, so we also do it as all one big thing. But I guess like when I say the Celeste team, I mean like whoever worked on Celeste would be connected to the like Celeste node. So there would be like a rough like approximation for like the people who worked on Celeste, but they wouldn't have their own like SourceCred instance or anything.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So
can
like,
somebody explain this digitized permaculture thing to me? I'm reading the chat. It sounds super interesting.
So like when I say like digitalized permaculture, I'm meaning like, like basically like the DAO in a sense. It's self-sustaining no matter what happens. Like the original founders like don't necessarily have to be like actively contributing to like managing the DAO. I think that's how I see it at like a higher level. And of course, like, you know, I think conceptually metagame is trying to help people kind of you know, I think MetaDreamer actually mentions like break away from the simulation and not have like obligations to, you know, other things in the world. So that's kind of how I see it at a high level. I'm not sure if that's the best way to describe it, but yeah.
The way I would describe it is like, so permaculture is basically like, you know, like the more natural order of things where, you know, in nature there isn't really a concept of garbage. Everything sort of like feeds into other things and like sustains other things. And you know, for Web3, we kind of like see, you know, these mesh of like communities and projects and infrastructure and these like Legos connecting to each other in a similar way. Like Drew, for example, was telling me once about like, you know, he had like a fish tank with like mealworms where like he'd like put food scraps to the mealworms who would like eat that food scraps and then create poop to like go into the fish tank, and then there's plants in there that would then like, you know, feed off the poop and then like make oxygen for the fish and all that type of thing.
In so many words, yeah.
Yes.
The other big part is like there's no real concept of like monoculture in nature, right? It's an ecosystem that works together, which is, yeah, you can create those, but they naturally obviously occur, and these essentially network effects are what allow for cultures and vegetation, all of it to thrive, right? So
Yeah, and it's like it's almost like biomimicry, like kind of building these communities off of that like setup where, you know, all these DeFi protocols integrating with each other and like, you know, liquidity in one like feeding some other thing in some other project. And
from a systems design standpoint, there's actually a tremendous amount of like similarity and crossover from like, again, it's like controlled agricultural design, whether you're doing like indoor high quality cash crop like cannabis or even outdoor permaculture, and technology systems design, and like especially when you're talking about like tokenomics and including economic incentives involved into as well.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about building the operating system of the future, what we really mean is not just for these social interactions or simulations, but actually for business use cases in the real world and developing these systems to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the other principles of permaculture is to use the edges. And so I think it was Luke earlier was talking about how one hive pushes everything out to the edges and lets them experiment. And that is very much in line with permaculture principles because it increases the diversity of the overall ecosystem.
100%. The more edge, the more surface too for that experimentation. It's a great point.
Right. I would
Now we are down here in Costa Rica, and we're actually forming an intentional community based around the idea of a DAO. So it's brand new. We have the land, and we are forming foundational agreements and creating like a physical DAO on the 3D realm. And we plan to involve like tokenomics and conviction voting and proposals all right within the community as it grows.
Damn. Can you post more info in the town hall dump?
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's still brand new, so a lot of the documentation is still, you know, has kinks and stuff, but I can try to gather some documentation to share.
Yeah, yes, please. When did you get started with this? Just started?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
When did you get started with this? I mean, you said you already have the land.
The land was bought a year and a half ago, and we've planted like about 1,000 trees on the property, and you know, the structure itself on the land is not up to par with people living there all the time. Sorry, I'm getting a feedback and it's kind of but we're doing it every day, and we're working hard to make our systems in a decentralized way. So every idea that we come up with, try to figure out how we can do it in a decentralized way, and also use the blockchain for transparency. We've been using Giveth a lot to form projects and create milestones and reach those milestones, getting involved with that aspect of the blockchain, and also like common stack and token economics, trying to create a currency kind of inspired by a currency that was created in Brazil called Muda, where they started paying people to meditate. Like if you just meditate for 20 minutes, then you get a token. And at this point, there's other actions that you can do to get these tokens, but the idea was that you're adding value to the world by meditating and making it a better space. And now there's a whole economy where people are trading these tokens with each other for goods and services.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, previously I just wanted to mention how I see this monoculture, permaculture is sort of comparable to like vertical integration and horizontal integration, where like vertical can be more efficient, but it's also way more fragile, while horizontal is way more about composing things together and creating an ecosystem.
Yeah, I agree. Getting the structure and foundation correct before we start adding all of the fancy stuff and bells and whistles, right?
You're right. All right, and the One Hive cafe is just starting, isn't that, Luke?
Oh yeah, it's 11:08. We should probably hop over there if people are joining. Though it'll be a short one because it'll kind of flow right into the DAO Rush Week event.
Right.
Everybody's more than welcome to come join us over there.
Yeah, can you post the link in the town hall dump?
Yeah. Let me figure out how to link directly to the voice channel.
Yeah, so there you have it. This was the One Hive and MetaGame meetup. I think it was pretty good. And yeah, the after party is in the One Hive server in their cafe. So thank you everybody for coming, and yeah, hop on over there if you want to keep on chatting or listening.
Yeah, thanks for coming, everybody. Thanks for speaking, Luke.
Yeah,
Thanks.
this was awesome.
Yeah.
Looking forward to further collaboration and cross-pollination.
This is amazing.
I'm glad I
Yep.
recorded it.
Indeed.
I think it'll make a really good like episode for both like One Hive and Metagame and like just the sort of things that we're trying to solve for.
Sweet.
Awesome. Yeah, let's get it on Metamedia.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Later, y'all.